Archaeologists opened the tomb of China's most pampered princess. What's inside leaves them in tears. Certainly, when mentioning Qin Shi Huang, the image of a great emperor who founded the Chinese Empire and left an indelible mark on history with monumental works like the Great Wall and the Lingqu Canal immediately comes to mind. Ascending the throne at age 13, he etched his name into history as the first emperor to unify China and one of the greatest rulers of all time. However, behind his resounding victories and strategic vision lies a story no less tragic and full of suffering. The life of Princess Ying Yinman, the daughter Qin Shi Huang cherished most. She was even dubbed by later generations as the most pampered princess in China. Ying Yinman, the princess adored by her father, lived a life of luxury and opulence. She had no worries about her future. Everything was in the hands of her father, a powerful emperor. But all of this was merely an illusion, for when Qin Shi Huang passed away in 210 BCE, a dark night enveloped Ying Yinman's life. She, along with her siblings, quickly became victims of a bloody power struggle, where the cruelest perpetrators were none other than her own family members. The story gradually unfolded through a shocking archaeological discovery in 1976 when experts excavated an ancient tomb complex at Qinling Mountain in Shanxi, China. Here, researchers uncovered graves containing remains buried in disarray, bearing gruesome and haunting traces of violence. The bodies were dismembered, some with heads severed, others pierced by arrows, or limbs brutally cut off. These signs indicated that the victims had been killed in a savage and ruthless manner, and it was undeniable that those in these tombs were closely tied to the Qin royal family. Particularly, a seal inscribed with the two characters Yangxi found in the tomb opened a new door. This seal proved a crucial fact: the remains in the tomb belonged to Princess Ying Yinman, the beloved daughter of Qin Shi Huang. This was clear evidence of the brutality and the power struggle following her father's death. When Qin Shi Huang died, everything changed completely. Hu Hai, one of Qin Shi Huang's sons, conspired with the eunuch Zhao Gao to seize the throne. They forged an imperial edict and assassinated Crown Prince Fusu, the intended heir, leading to his death. After ascending the throne, Hu Hai relentlessly purged his opponents. His relatives, including his siblings and the princess, could not escape his grasp. Ying Yinman, once the most beloved, also fell victim to this brutality. The deaths of Ying Yinman and her royal siblings were recorded in blood-soaked tales. According to legend, all princes were beheaded at the Xianyang market, while 10 princesses, including Ying Yinman, were dismembered. A horrific massacre took place within the heart of the imperial palace, flooding the place with scenes of death and bloodshed. However, despite seizing the throne, Hu Hai ruled for only 3 years before the court descended into chaos. Betrayal and dark conspiracies led to the collapse of the Qin dynasty. Ultimately, Hu Hai was forced to abdicate and took his own life in disgrace, ending a dynasty filled with highs and tragic lows. The life and death of Princess Ying Yinman stand as the clearest testament to the cruelty of power and the schemes to seize the throne within the royal family. Despite being cherished, she could not escape the evil brought by those closest to her. The tale of Ying Yinman's love and tragedy, along with her painful death and that of her siblings, left a stain on Chinese history, a reminder of the ruthlessness of power and the dark conspiracies that always lurk within dynasties. Once again, this story reminds us that power can not only build empires, but also destroy everything that is most beautiful. What do you think of this story? Personally, I find this princess truly pitiable. And that's not all. Across the world, countless such tragic stories exist, as evidenced by numerous archaeological discoveries. Now let's continue our journey of exploration to see what other remarkable findings archaeologists have uncovered in recent years. 6,000-year-old burial pit in France. Remnants of a massacre? On an ordinary day in the tranquil region of Bergheim, France, archaeologists thought they were conducting a routine excavation. But the earth revealed a story untold for over 6,000 years. An ancient mass burial pit was uncovered, not merely a final resting place for the deceased, but a chilling testament to a bloody tragedy that unfolded in the heart of Neolithic Europe. Within the silent layers of soil, 7 human skeletons were found: 2 men, 1 woman, 4 children, and a partial skull of a newborn infant. Surrounding them were fragmented hand bones, severed arm segments, and signs of a barbaric ritual or attack targeting human hands. Archaeologist Fanny Chanal from the Antioch Archaeological Institute in Habsheim was among the first to encounter this gruesome discovery. According to her, the evidence suggests that these individuals did not die naturally but were likely killed in a skirmish or armed conflict, then hastily buried. Notably, the pit already contained severed left arms, which may hold the key to this mystery. Were the perpetrators collecting left arms as trophies? Or was this a ritualistic act, symbolizing victory or humiliation of their enemies? As the team delved deeper, more peculiarities emerged. All skeletons retained intact arms, except for one male whose skull bore severe trauma, likely from a heavy blow. Strangely, he was the only one missing his left arm. Could his severed arm be among those found? That question remains unanswered. Chanal and her colleagues haven't ruled out the possibility that the left arm was a specific target, perhaps tied to cultural or ritualistic symbolism in prehistoric times. At the pit's base, crushed hand bones suggested not just amputation, but deliberate pulverization, possibly carrying religious significance or serving as a form of punishment. Through carbon dating, experts determined the victims lived around 4000 BCE during the Neolithic period, a time when small farming communities were thought to live relatively peacefully and bury their dead in circular pits. However, the Bergheim discovery shattered this idyllic image, revealing that violence and warfare may have been far more intense than previously imagined. Chanal asserts this is the first evidence that victims of Neolithic conflicts were buried in circular pits, a practice previously undocumented. This find not only stunned the archaeological community, but also raised questions about the true nature of ancient burial pits. Were they repurposed storage silos? Tombs for high-status individuals, accompanied by sacrificial deaths of servants or kin? Another theory suggests they could be graves for slaves, killed as offerings to appease deities. Alongside the remains, small artifacts were found: a shell jewelry piece, a stone spearhead, a pig's jawbone, and 2 wild rabbit skeletons, all hinting at a ritual performed at the site. Remarkably, 3 years earlier, 60 other circular pits were excavated in the same Bergheim area, 13 of which contained human remains or bones. Yet only this pit left a haunting impression, a mirror reflecting a dark chapter of history buried for millennia. Was this a massacre, a religious ritual, or simply the aftermath of a survival struggle? These questions linger unanswered. The skeletons beneath Bergheim's soil seem to whisper their story, and they likely have more to say than we can yet comprehend. Medieval girl burned at the stake as a suspected witch. What would you do if one day, beneath the grounds of an ancient monastery, you uncovered the remains of a young girl, burned, thrown into a pit, and buried under heavy stones? No one knows her name, but the way she was treated speaks volumes. The society of her time believed that even in death, she remained a threat. Yes, this is not a scene from a horror movie. It's a chilling truth unearthed in Italy, a historical mystery that archaeologists and scholars still cannot fully explain. The story begins in Albenga, a quaint coastal town in northern Italy, once a religious hub during the Middle Ages. At the San Calocero archaeological complex, researchers discovered a heavily charred female skeleton, and the terrifying manner of her burial shocked them. There was no ceremony, no coffin, no prayers. She was thrown into a deep pit, her head bent to her chest from the impact, and covered with large stone slabs. The research team believes this was a ritual of suppression, reflecting the belief that even in death, she could return. They didn't want her to rise again, so they sealed her away forever. It's chilling to recall that in 2014 at the same site, Professor Felipe Pergola and his team found another set of remains, a 13-year-old girl buried face down. This was a traditional burial method for those deemed witches, sinners, or cursed. Instead of allowing the deceased soul to rest, people buried them face down to ensure their spirit could never rise. These harsh rituals were not mere symbols. In medieval European folklore, people genuinely believed that without measures like face-down burials, placing bricks in mouths, driving stakes through hearts, or even decapitation, the dead could return. And if they were witches, the consequences would be catastrophic for the entire village. Analysis of the newly discovered remains revealed the girl was about 4 feet 9 inches tall and died between 15 and 17 years old. She suffered severe burns, with soft tissue still present during the burning, suggesting she may have been burned alive or her body was set alight immediately after death. Researchers cannot confirm whether she was alive when the flames engulfed her. What is certain, however, is that she died in agony and was discarded as a taboo. Medically, the girl showed signs of parotid hyperostosis, a condition caused by severe anemia that leads to porous bones, particularly in the skull and eye sockets. She also had scurvy from vitamin C deficiency, weak tooth enamel, and evidence of severe malnutrition. These indicate she lived in extremely harsh conditions. Her frail appearance, pale skin, and visible illness may have branded her as different or demon-possessed. To this day, the girl's true identity remains a mystery. Who was she? Why was she burned? Is there a connection between her and the face-down girl found in 2014? Why, in the same place, did two young girls meet such tragic ends? Does this reflect an era when superstition overpowered reason? Or is it evidence of society's cruel discrimination against the weak, sick, and different? We may never know the full truth, but what is clear is that every bone unearthed tells not only of death, but also whispers of a society so gripped by fear that it was merciless to the innocent. What do you think of this story? Was this girl a victim of superstition or someone who truly terrified others? Don't forget to leave your thoughts below to share with everyone. 800-year-old skeleton contains ghost cells of deadly bacteria. At an ancient cemetery site in Anatolia, Turkey, archaeologists discovered the skeleton of a pregnant woman, estimated to be around 30 years old. At first glance, it appeared to be just another historical artifact among thousands of other archaeological finds. But upon closer inspection, specifically at the lower ribs beneath the chest, researchers noticed strange, never-before-seen nodules. These growths seemed to be the remnants of something painful, something haunting, that had driven the woman's body into despair and ultimately ended her life, and that of her unborn child. What puzzled researchers was that the nodules did not show signs of tuberculosis, a common cause of bone damage in the medieval period. Using radiocarbon dating, the team determined that the nodules were between 790 and 860 years old. The pressing question arose: what had truly killed this woman? And was there any trace of that cause still left in her fragile bones? Dr. Caitlin Pepperell, an epidemiologist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, sliced the nodules into thin sections for analysis. What she discovered opened a door into genetic history. Within those odd calcium clusters was a shocking revelation: microfossils, so-called ghost cells from two deadly bacteria, Staphylococcus saprophyticus and Gardnerella vaginalis. One is known for causing urinary tract infections, the other for attacking the fetus directly. This deadly combination had all but sealed the fate of both mother and child during a time when medicine had not yet emerged from the shadows. But the mystery didn't end there. Among the bacterial samples, researchers also found the DNA of a baby boy, precisely the unborn son of the ill-fated woman. Incredibly, the DNA of both the child and the bacteria that killed them remained remarkably intact after nearly a millennium. While typically only about 1% of bacterial DNA can survive after 800 years, this case revealed survival rates of 31% to 58%, a nearly impossible figure unless something extraordinary had protected them. This stunned the scientific community. "There's something fascinating about how the DNA was preserved," Pepperell remarked. "The quality of the genetic data is still very good." What seemed like meaningless nodules turned out to be a time capsule, not only holding the cause of death, but silently telling a story from the other side, of a child who never got to cry his first cry, of a mother who died in loneliness and pain, and of an invisible killer called bacteria, which still quietly lives among us in the modern world. Are you getting chills reading this? I know I am. Not just because of the horrifying truth that has surfaced nearly 1,000 years later, but because of the lingering question it raises. If today's technology can reach so deeply into the mysteries of the past, how many more secrets are still buried beneath layers of earth and stone, waiting to be awakened? And what stories will they tell us? It's haunting, isn't it? One can only wonder what unimaginable suffering those unfortunate souls endured in their time. The shackled skeletons of the ancient Greek coup soldiers. Archaeologists have made another stunning discovery about the past in the Phaleron Delta region of Greece. Specifically, at an ancient cemetery, they unearthed at least 80 skeletons dating from the 5th to the 8th century BC. What made this find particularly fascinating was a strange detail. All the skeletons had their wrists shackled, as if they were victims of a mass execution. But the story behind these deaths is not so simple. The skeletons were not buried hastily or disrespectfully. On the contrary, they were interred with a certain reverence, suggesting that these were not criminals or slaves being punished. So, who were these individuals, and why did they meet such a tragic end? Upon examining the burial arrangements, something unusual became apparent. The skeletons were carefully arranged, with some lying in a straight line, while others were stacked on top of one another, their limbs bent, and their jaws even left wide open. This arrangement was not typical of victims of war or common criminals. These individuals had been cared for in death, and clearly, they were not regarded as outcasts in society. Dr. Stella Chrysoulaki, the lead archaeologist of the excavation, stated that all the victims were executed in the same manner, and most of them were very young. This raises even more questions about their identities. Another intriguing detail is that, despite being deceased, these individuals had relatively good health during their lifetime. They were all young, healthy, and likely in excellent physical condition before meeting their tragic fate. This further supports the theory that these were not criminals or impoverished people abandoned by society. Another sign is that their arms were often raised above their heads, and their wrists tightly bound with iron shackles, suggesting they might have been arrested and executed in an organized manner. These skeletons were found in a vast area of the ancient cemetery, which contains more than 1,500 scattered burials. Notably, many of the remains were of children, buried in ceramic urns, while some adults were interred in stone coffins. All of these remains are located in a large area, where a national opera house and library are also being built, an area that covers more than 169,000 square miles. So, who were the victims of this execution? One hypothesis is that these skeletons might belong to soldiers who supported Cylon, an Athenian nobleman and Olympic champion. Cylon attempted a coup in 632 BC with the help of his father-in-law, the tyrant of Megara. However, after the coup failed, Cylon fled and hid in a temple on the Acropolis, while his supporters were brutally killed. If this hypothesis is correct, the excavation could be the key to understanding one of the bloodiest and most mysterious events in ancient history. To verify this theory, researchers will continue to conduct DNA testing and anthropological studies on the skeletons. This will help determine whether this group of young individuals were indeed warriors in Cylon's coup army. Moreover, using modern research methods, we hope to shed light on the tragic story of these people. Individuals who sacrificed their lives in a brutal manner but may have been forgotten in the pages of history. Could decoding these skeletons help us understand more about ancient Greek history and the bloody, tear-filled events of the past? The answer will undoubtedly remain a great mystery, and the journey to explore this history will certainly bring more surprises. If you are someone who loves to explore and uncover the mysteries of the past, then stay tuned for new discoveries in the next excavations. The 7,000-year-old skeleton, buried in a strange position. You wouldn't believe it, but over 7,000 years ago, a skeleton was buried in an extremely unusual ritual, completely different from what we know about ancient cultures. Recently, archaeologists discovered a 7,000-year-old skeleton in the Mesolithic region of Germany, and what makes this discovery so special is the bizarre burial position of the deceased. A young man was buried standing upright, a position never before recorded in Central European archaeology. The skeleton was found near the village of Gross Freudenwalde in northeastern Germany, and it was placed in a deep vertical pit, with the body of the man fixed upright by a layer of sand that filled the pit from the bottom to his knees. The upper part of the skeleton had been damaged and was no longer intact, but this unusual arrangement still left experts puzzled. Why would someone be buried in such a way? Could there have been a ritual or belief behind this practice in the community at the time? According to Thomas Terberger, the director of the excavation at the Lower Saxony Heritage Department, this could be one of the earliest cemeteries used in Europe during the Mesolithic period. Between approximately 6400 BC and 500 BC, people in this area lived primarily through hunting, gathering, and fishing, and they never stayed in one place for too long. However, they had strong beliefs and special rituals when burying the deceased, proving that death for them was not just an end, but also an important part of the life cycle. This raises a big question. Could the upright burial have been a way to show respect? Or is there a deeper meaning behind it that we have yet to understand? Even more intriguing, this skeleton is the only one found in such an upright burial position in Central Europe. From the arrangement of the bones, researchers speculate that the man may have been placed in a pit more than 4.9 feet deep. Another curious detail is that since the discovery of this archaeological site, experts have excavated 9 other skeletons, including 5 of children over 6 years old and one 8,400-year-old infant skeleton. Notably, the infant's arms were tightly held against its chest, a position that seems to symbolize the protection and care of an adult even after death. These discoveries not only provide insight into how ancient people dealt with death, but also open a new door to understanding the ancient Mesolithic civilization. Although these communities were nomadic and left little trace of permanent settlements, they placed great importance on funeral rituals and burial practices. This suggests that even in a hunting and gathering society, death was respected and could have been a vital part of their connection to the spiritual world. With each new discovery, questions about culture, beliefs, and ancient rituals are reignited. And perhaps these mysteries will continue to challenge our imagination and curiosity on the journey of exploring the past. These skeletons, lying quietly beneath the earth for thousands of years, bring us untold stories about the people who lived and died during that era. What will the next discoveries reveal about how these ancient people lived and viewed death? We can only wait and keep searching, as the journey to explore the history of humanity seems to have no end. The oldest royal skeleton of the British royal family. You may have heard mysterious stories about skeletons lost for centuries, and one of the most remarkable recent discoveries involves the finding of the oldest royal skeleton of the British royal family. But this story is not just about a regular excavation. It holds historical secrets, pieces of the royal puzzle never before revealed. So, why is this skeleton so important? And is it truly that of one of the first queens of England, Queen Edgith? The story begins when a group of archaeologists unearthed an ancient coffin at Magdeburg Cathedral in southern Germany. Inside the coffin, they found the well-preserved skeleton of a woman, aged 30 to 40, and notably a tag inscribed with the name Edith. If you're not familiar with it, Edith is the Old English name for Queen Edgith, the sister of King Athelstan and the granddaughter of Alfred the Great, the king considered to be the founder of the Kingdom of England. But how can we confirm that this skeleton actually belongs to Edgith? Could it just be a coincidence? In fact, Queen Edgith was a highly significant figure in English history. She lived in the 10th century and was part of the first royal family that played a decisive role in the formation of modern-day England. However, in 1510, her remains were lost when they were moved to another burial site. A memorial to her was erected at Magdeburg Cathedral. Now, after more than 500 years, the question of her fate remains unanswered. But now, with the discovery of the skeleton inside the ancient coffin, archaeologists have reason to believe they've found Queen Edgith. And while it is still just a theory, part of the story is starting to come together. With clear indicators like the woman's age in the coffin and the tag inscribed with Edith, the possibility that this is the skeleton of Queen Edgith becomes more apparent. However, we can't confirm this for sure until further, more complex tests are conducted. Currently, the University of Bristol in the UK is performing a series of bone tests to determine whether this skeleton is indeed a member of the British royal family. Specifically, researchers will compare the radioactive isotopes in this skeleton with those from regions where Queen Edgith lived, such as Wessex and Mercia. This is an important step in confirming the identity of the skeleton, and if the results are positive, it would be a historically valuable discovery. Professor Mark Horton, a key member of the research team, shared, "We know that royal skeletons from early British history were often moved, but we hope the radioactive isotopes from the skeleton will match those from areas where Queen Edgith lived." He also mentioned that if proven correct, this would be one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in recent years. So, the question remains, is this skeleton truly that of Queen Edgith? Or is it just a coincidence in a long tale of British royal history? Whatever the final result, finding the skeleton has opened a new door, allowing us to understand more of the missing pieces of England's long history. And when the bones are tested and confirmed, perhaps we'll uncover not only a historical secret, but also an inspiring story of resilience and respect for those who helped build the foundation of a nation. Two skeletons of a couple found in an ancient well. Imagine walking through an ancient land that once witnessed the first steps of human civilization. The wind gently rustles through the dry, sun-scorched grass in the Jezreel Valley, a sacred land in Israel, where every inch holds secrets buried for thousands of years. And then, like a scene from a suspenseful movie, a team of archaeologists uncovers an ancient well, seemingly just a remnant of the past, but no one expected that about 26 feet below, a chilling mystery lay hidden. Two human skeletons lying next to each other, silent for 8,000 years. These are not nameless skeletons. Through preliminary analysis, one is identified as a young woman in her early 20s and the other as a man in his 30s to 40s. They didn't just lie together, they were found in the narrow stone well, only 4.3 feet wide, a space not meant for life nor for peaceful rest. So, who were they? Why did they die in such a strange manner? And what happened on that fateful day 8,000 years ago? There are no clear clues, no signs of violence found on the bones. This only adds to the eerie and perplexing nature of the case. Scientists are still debating, unable to reach a definitive conclusion. One theory suggests they may have accidentally fallen into the well in a tragic accident, but there's also the possibility they were murdered, then thrown into the well to conceal the crime. Each theory leaves a chilling aftertaste, making it impossible to look away from the story. Yotam Tepper, the excavation director, mentioned that the team is working tirelessly to investigate. To unravel this mystery, they plan to conduct ancient forensic examinations, DNA analysis, and study every small detail of the site. Not only have the archaeologists discovered the two skeletons, but they also found several artifacts from the Neolithic period: stone sickles, broken arrowheads, and primitive tools, all scattered around the well, as if someone had left in a hurry, or some sudden event caused the area to be abandoned in the flow of time. Another intriguing detail is that around the well, archaeologists discovered the remains of small farms, traces showing that the area was once home to a Neolithic community, a peaceful, simple life, now reduced to a few crumbling stone pillars and fragments of a long-lost life. What caused the well, once a vital source for the community, to be abandoned? Some suggest the well water was contaminated after the mysterious event, but perhaps the deaths of these two individuals in the well spread fear, causing the residents to abandon the site forever. The story doesn't stop here. The biggest question still hangs in the air. Could this have been a tragic double suicide? Or were they victims of a mysterious sacrificial ritual that modern people have yet to fully understand? The theories are slowly coming to light, each piece of the puzzle revealed, but the final picture is still far from complete. You see, an archaeological discovery is sometimes more than just finding a piece of bone or an ancient artifact. It's a journey to uncover the forgotten slices of human history. It's when the past speaks, inviting us to draw closer to the truth, even if that truth may send chills down our spine. And you, the viewer of this video, do you believe that there are still stories waiting to be told, just beneath that silent layer of earth and stone? Don't forget to follow, because in the next videos, we'll continue to follow the archaeologists on their quest to uncover the mysteries still sleeping in the Jezreel Valley, where two 8,000-year-old souls are waiting for the day to be revived in the light of truth. The Noble Tomb beneath the burial well in Egypt. If you think the mysteries of ancient Egypt have already been uncovered, then this story will make you rethink that assumption. In the barren, dusty land of El Gorefa, where many groundbreaking excavations have already taken place, archaeologists have just revealed an incredible discovery: an ancient tomb of an Egyptian noble family, buried deep underground and hidden beneath a mysterious burial well. But what makes this discovery truly timeless is not just its age or ancient beauty, but a shocking fact. The tomb has remained completely intact, untouched for over 2,500 years. Yes, you heard that right. A tomb from ancient Egypt, untouched by looters or destroyed by time or humans. This is truly a living treasure for archaeology. According to Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, the well, which is 32.8 feet deep, is not just an entrance, but also the key to a large burial chamber carved into solid rock. When the archaeologists began to excavate, they were astonished to find the entrance still sealed with ancient mortar, the very same type of mortar used by the ancient Egyptians more than 2 millennia ago. Behind that seal was a sacred, silent, and solemn space. One of the first coffins identified belonged to Badi Eset, who held the title Overseer of the Royal Treasury, meaning he was in charge of the entire wealth and financial power of the royal court at the time. He was one of the most powerful figures in ancient Egypt, second only to the pharaoh. But there's more. Beside him, there are 4 other large coffins, believed to belong to family members. These coffins have yet to be opened, but initial assessments suggest they may contain well-preserved mummies, as the seal on them has never been broken. However, what truly left the world breathless wasn't just the coffins, but the burial goods found within the tomb chamber. These include 2 intricately crafted limestone statues, one of the sacred bull Apis, a symbol of strength and prosperity, and the other of a goddess whose identity remains uncertain, possibly Isis or Hathor, goddesses associated with protection and motherhood. In addition, archaeologists uncovered several canopic jars containing the mummified organs of the deceased, intricately carved with images of the 4 sons of Horus. These jars are regarded as some of the most beautiful ever found in Egypt. But the treasures don't stop there. Inside the tomb, nearly 1,000 Ushabti figurines were also discovered. These tin-glazed ceramic statues, shaped like servants, were believed to serve the deceased in the afterlife. Each figurine is a work of art, reflecting the immense wealth and status of the family. Moreover, the team found several meticulously crafted amulets and ancient pottery, including kitchenware, but all with priceless artistic and historical value. El Gurefa, a land that seemed to have already revealed all its stories, speaks again, reminding us that the past still holds many secrets. According to Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, this area likely still holds dozens of undiscovered tombs, possibly including other noble and even royal burials. The ancient tomb of the Prince's 6 wives. In the heart of modern-day Germany, amidst construction sites that seem to be made entirely of concrete and steel, a centuries-old mystery suddenly emerges. This time, it's unlike anything archaeologists have seen before. During the excavation for a large chicken farm in the Sachsen-Anhalt region near Brückenhackpfeffel, Germany, an unexpected discovery shook the archaeological world. An ancient tomb with a strange, eerie, and incredibly mysterious structure, located in the center of an ancient cemetery. And at the heart of this tomb were the remains of 6 women lying in a circle around a strange vessel, as if part of a forgotten ritual that still whispers a tragic story from 1,500 years ago. This tomb is unlike any other ever uncovered before. The circular structure, the central sacred position within the cemetery, and the lavish artifacts found suggest that this could be the final resting place of a prince or a powerful lord in ancient society. But here's the paradox. The body of the powerful man who should be at the center of this tomb has not been found. Meanwhile, the 6 women lying around the vessel remain the most mysterious figures of all. Who were they? Why were they there? And what happened in their final moments? There are 2 theories, both of which are chilling. First, they might have been loyal concubines, chosen to die alongside their noble husband in a brutal ritual that appeared in many ancient cultures. But there's another, even darker possibility. They weren't wives, but young girls who were sacrificed, part of a haunting ceremony that history has yet to fully understand. Regardless of which theory is true, the truth remains buried with the bones, and the archaeologists have yet to make a final conclusion. The vessel at the center of the tomb adds an even more mysterious element to the story. It is placed in the center as if a sacred object, yet it is completely empty. No ashes, no bones, no artifacts inside. What was its true purpose? Was it a symbol of a lost ritual? Or perhaps a shrine for the spirit of the deceased? No one can be certain, but it's undoubtedly an important piece in this strange puzzle. What's even more surprising is that 11 animals were also buried with the tomb, from dogs and horses to livestock. These animals weren't sacrificed in a ritual. Instead, they had already died and were placed in the tomb as part of the ceremonial process honoring the deceased. This detail only adds to the sacred and mysterious atmosphere surrounding the tomb. The burial goods found in the tomb are truly treasures. Gold, silver, glass, and ceramics, all crafted with exceptional skill, showcasing the immense wealth and power of the people involved. The glass pieces, in particular, revealed the true age of the tomb, about 1,500 years old, coming from Gallo-Roman workshops along the Rhine River, known for their glassmaking skills in the ancient world. Even more remarkably, the entire tomb area has never been looted. One reason for this could be its location in a depression, where over 4 feet of sediment naturally formed a protective shield from the eyes of tomb robbers. Thanks to this, the main tomb has remained intact like a time machine, taking us back through the ages. And perhaps the most fascinating detail? The other tombs in the cemetery are all arranged in a circle around this central tomb, suggesting that all the graves are bowing in reverence to the deceased, even though he may still be missing beneath his own land. A symbol of absolute reverence or perhaps fear of a power too great to be ignored in life. From a simple chicken farm project, archaeologists have uncovered an ancient story, one where the boundaries between power, death, and ritual have blurred over the centuries. The tomb in Sachsen-Anhalt is not just an archaeological discovery, it is a reminder. History has never been silent, it has merely been waiting to be heard. The 13-year-old girl who has been sleeping peacefully for 4,900 years. By the Pyramid, an unveiled mystery of ancient Egypt. Egypt, the land of mysteries, where the sands of time have never stopped telling their stories. But amidst the colossal sphinxes, towering pyramids, and mummies that have become symbols of the ancient world, a new story has been revealed. One that has stunned archaeologists and left the entire world holding its breath. This is the story of a young girl, just 13 years old, who has rested for 4,900 years in an ancient tomb near the Maidam Pyramid, located south of Cairo. She wasn't a princess, and there's no sign that she belonged to royalty. Yet, the way she was buried commands respect. In a fetal position, knees drawn to her chest, as though sleeping in a squatting position, a posture never before recorded in any ancient Egyptian burial practice. She wasn't placed in a coffin, nor was she wrapped in linen like the traditional mummies, but next to her were 2 enormous skulls of male cattle, a sacred animal in Egyptian culture, along with 3 ancient ceramic jars. Who was she to be buried with such prestigious offerings? That question remains unanswered to this day. Archaeologists have called this one of the strangest and most mysterious discoveries in recent years. The tomb was found in a cemetery with thick brick walls, now completely collapsed. However, tests have shown that the girl passed away around 4,600 years ago, exactly the same age as the Maidam Pyramid. And it is that very pyramid, located near where the girl rests, that continues to puzzle researchers. Initially, the Maidam Pyramid was built as a step pyramid by Pharaoh Huni, who reigned around 2599 BC. However, his successor, Pharaoh Sneferu, didn't stop there. He transformed it into a true pyramid, not just a symbol of power, but also a significant step forward in ancient Egyptian architecture. Sneferu didn't just improve the Maidam Pyramid, he built several others, perhaps as experimental versions for an even greater structure. And then came Khufu, Sneferu's son, who continued his father's dream by building the Great Pyramid of Giza, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, still admired by humanity to this day. Could it be that, amidst these grand projects, the young girl was also part of a larger story, a missing piece in the evolutionary journey of ancient Egyptian civilization? Why was she buried there, right beside what once served as the laboratory for the architecture of one of the greatest pharaohs? Was she the daughter of a brilliant architect, or someone with a special role in the nobility? Or could it be, as a strange theory suggests, that she was a sacrifice, chosen to offer prayers to the gods for the success of the great project being built? Up to this point, it remains only a hypothesis. But what's certain is that the story of the 13-year-old girl and her resting place has opened a new door for us to look back at the past, a place where mysteries that have never been solved still lie beneath the scorching sands of the desert. And who knows, after this discovery, how many more secrets might be waiting to be revealed, right? As you can see, the past always holds strange and emotional stories, and each archaeological discovery is not just a piece of history, but also a reverberation from the past that we cannot ignore. Artifacts once buried by time, from the skeletons of those embracing each other in despair to the remnants of vanished civilizations, are proof of life, death, and the fierce desire to exist that lies within humanity. Behind each excavation is a deep emotional moment, the tears of archaeologists as they touch ancient truths, painful yet essential truths that must be known. If you're as moved as we are, Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to continue joining us on this journey to explore the emotional and human mysteries of history. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.